Hey everybody, Sayre at Nova again. This week we have a Horex. Now, if you've never heard of a Horex, you're not alone. I hadn't heard much about them till the owner of this bike, our friend Dave Roper, he started talking to me about how he has, I believe, three of them at the moment. And then I realized I'd seen them in books and that kind of thing, but you do not see a lot of them around the streets of at least in the United States. Um, this is oh God, I'm gonna get a 56, I think. It's a Horex Resident 350cc single. Horex was made in Germany, founded in 1923, I believe, and it it they went out of business in not long after this bike, actually, in 1960. I believe they were sold. They were having a hard time. They were sold to Mercedes-Benz, or whatever the Mercedes-Benz was called at the time, Daimler something, and they were basically put to rest at that point. But it reminds me a lot of ways of some of the earlier pre or really pre 1960 British bikes, in that it's a really solidly built machine. It's well made, and I think it suffered from a lot of what Velocet and Matchless, AJS, and other English brands suffered from, is that they were just not profitable to make. They were really nice bikes, but they took a lot of effort to make, and it was very hard for the companies to turn a profit doing it. So I've said this about British bikes before. BSA, Triumph, and Norton didn't survive the longest because they were the best bikes. They were actually sort of the Chevys, Fords, and Dodges of the British industry. They were just the most profitable. They're in some ways the worst bikes, and they're the ones that lived. So that's the free market economy for you. The the design of this bike is not unlike a equivalent R25 BMW of the time. BMW R25, R26, R27 BMWs were their 250 singles. Those were shaft drive, but this has an Earl's fork front end, which is where there's a swinging arm on the front, and a very innovative way. It's really something that's necessary for sidecar use, but really creates a stable bike. And funny thing, normally when you on a fork front end, when you grab the front brake, the fork tends to dive. These tend to actually rotate the other way and climb a little bit. So they're kind of interesting to ride. It's pretty standard cradle frame, very beefy. It's got a chain drive, unlike the BMW. If you come around this side, you can see the fully enclosed chain, which allowed it to run with a little bit of an oil bath. I believe this had an oil bath. These typically mean that they run with a little bit of oil down there. If there's no oil, it at least keeps it free from grime, and it keeps the chain lube that you put on there longer. It's a little bit difficult to work with, but those make a chain last a super long time. Some of the oil bath chains are known to go 60,000 miles, 100,000 miles if you're really diligent and ride carefully, which compared to the 10,000 miles you get out of a regular chain is pretty impressive. So lube your chains, kids. Always the important lesson. Left side kickstart here, which is makes it like you pretty much have to start from standing on the ground. It's hard to straddle it and do it lefty. Motomarinis and a lot of the Italian bikes are also like that. Some people do it on the bike, but I've always had a hard time with it. And 6-volt electrical system. This bike is actually in here because of a charging issue. I think it's a problem with the regulator, the voltage regulator on it, and we'll have to get another one from Germany. There's actually a company that still makes some aftermarket parts for these in Germany. And what else? Another innovative thing, you'll see that it has two exhaust pipes coming out of the front, which 9 times out of 10 means you're looking at a 2-cylinder motorcycle. This is actually a single-cylinder motorcycle, 2 valves, but twin exhaust ports. Best I can understand of it is that was an attempt at what we see nowadays with multi-valve heads. You have 4 valves, 2 intake, 2 exhaust, or in the case of Yamaha, they had 5 valves, 3 intakes, and 2 exhausts, and Honda CM400s had 2 intakes and 1 exhaust. The idea being that you can flow more with smaller multiple ports rather than one big one. The AJS 7R3, also known as a triple knocker, AJS race bike from the 50s, also tried that, had two exhaust valves and 1 intake valve. And as Rob Iannucci explained it to me when I was at Team Obsolete, he said they were onto something with the multi-valves. They were just doing it wrong. It was the beginning of figuring that kind of head flow out. So it's not really a great idea, but it actually did make more horsepower than the standard 2-valve version on the AJS. So I imagine this has some benefit of a freer flowing exhaust, even though the real idea is to try to cram in more intake than you need, because the intake is going to be a higher volume, and get as you turn it into energy, it takes up less space, so you actually don't need a smaller exhaust. But interesting stuff. Definitely trying some innovation on it. You got these beautiful flared fenders as well, very, very much of its time. Nice, nice chrome and bodywork. I actually often thought these looked like English bikes at first, because of all the chrome and the crown on the logo. But no, it's very German. When you look closely at the crankcase, it really does look. You kind of start to see the parallels between the BMW. And then lastly, our buddy Dave, he rides his machines. So this thing sees a lot of road time, and you can see by the route sheet here that he's got directions from. This is getting around Long Island somewhere, I'm sure. But last time we saw this bike, and it's actually on one of our shorts on our channel, is he came and did our Unsprung rally with us, and that was when he noticed he had real problems. Actually, I remember helping him bump start at lunch, and the bike didn't really want to start. It did finally go, but then he when I met him back here at the shop, he had limped in on one cylinder, limped in misfiring, because it is only a one cylinder, but misfiring and barely made it, and that's when he knew he needed to do something about the charging. So yeah, I love working on stuff like this. There's not a lot of information out there on it. The information that there is often in German, and I don't speak German very well. So you have to really make an effort to understand the system and really work from the ground up on it. You can't just go throwing parts at it. You got to really go through it and check for basic stuff. And we've already found some stuff that was a little bit off that needed to be addressed, but in the end, it needs a voltage regulator. So yeah, check it out. If you have any experience with these or other bygone brands, we love to hear about it. The weirder the better with motorcycles, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe.